Now we're talking. The Eagles got back in the win column, and Jalen Hurts sent a little message to the critics with his perfect game. As great as that is, the best part might be the changes the offense made, along with Smitty dialing up the 1 + 6 = 7 connection. Now, sadly, we can't say the same thing about the running game, but in this video, we'll break it all down, look into Nakobe Dean's impact on defense, Jalen Carter reasserting his dominance, and how BG coming back could help. Don't worry, Howie's not done making a move for edge, though. So let's talk about that and the new identity the offense found, but first, let's run it.
Nothing else matters except finding a way to win and getting better. That's all that matters.
What's up, guys? Been too long since we said this, but the Eagles found their way back on the winning train, and also, in the meantime, they might have found a new identity. Because there's no denying it. Coming off blowing a 14-point fourth-quarter lead 2 weeks ago at home to the Broncos and then getting obliterated by the Giants on primetime, the Birds were clearly at a crossroads going into Minnesota.
I'm just a little nervous.
I get it, yes, I understand the anxiety, especially given the matchup. However, the funny thing is, all week we've been hearing about Jalen Hurts struggling or not having thrown for 300 yards and a touchdown over the last 28 games, and also being incapable of putting the team on his back. Heck, you had ESPN's Jeremy Fowler sharing that when he talks to coaches, execs, and scouts around the league, they don't look at Hurts as being capable of that. And actually, if push comes to shove, a lot of them would argue that Philly has had to mask issues because of his limitations in the pocket.
If they need that from him, you can't expect it.
Hurts pointing, throwing, trying to find a loose man. It's A.J. Brown. Trying to find something downfield. And it's Devonta Smith. He's loose. He's got it. He is gone. Pressure. Hurts throws down the seam. A.J. Brown touchdown.
Kind of reminded me of the Super Bowl, so to speak. You know, they shut down our run game, but our passing game opened. But we also had the mix-up of plays. They didn't know what we were doing from under center.
I think I'm at the point of just accepting the fact that Jalen Hurts will probably never get the recognition he deserves. Like, say what you want, but the dude is just a winner. Which, speaking of, you guys know what's coming next. Make sure to drop a like on this video and then go down to the comments section and let me know your biggest takeaway from the game. Because if you do that, we're giving away 2 Eagles tickets to 1 lucky subscriber. One person's going to win those. We do this every game, but after the Eagles win, it'd been too long. But go ahead, drop a like, leave a comment. Oh yeah, just do me a favor, make sure to subscribe to the channel because FYI, it's free to subscribe, doesn't cost you a thing, and yet there's still 40% of you who watch the channel regularly and haven't hit that sub button. So anyway, I'll ask again, what was your biggest takeaway from the game? I mean, I completely get it if you say QB1's performance. After all, it's only right that he had his best game ever following one of his worst games in his career against the Giants. FYI, Jalen had a perfect passer rating in the game versus the Vikings, and also had the highest grade by any quarterback in any game this year with a 95.2. Which, yeah, makes it even crazier that there were some calling for Philly to start Tanner McKee over QB1 last week.
Do I look foolish?
I think Tanner McKee, right now, should be the starter.
It's amazing because there were actually tweets denying that claim, and there's video evidence there, but they can live in denial. We do keep receipts on this show. So for the record, and while we're keeping track, Hurts' 158.3 passer rating is the 3rd perfect rating in Eagles history. In case you were wondering who those others were, the 2 were Donovan McNabb versus the Lions in 2007, and Nick Foles' 7-touchdown game versus the Raiders in 2013. Of course, I'm not trying to take anything away from Donovan McNabb or Nick Foles. They deserve credit. Perfect game. It's insane. The perfect passer rating. But what Jalen Hurts did is more impressive because you think about the fact that Jalen was doing that, all things considered, this was not a blowout. You go look at the other 2 instances, those were blowout games. This was a close game, high-pressure, leverage situations, and also, by the way, it was against the #1 pass defense in the NFL.
A lot of respect for that coordinator. You know, Coach Flores is a phenomenal coordinator. He had us up all night. You know, those offensive coaches were sleeping in the building. They're late all night because of the problems and the issues that they create. So a lot of respect to them. They made us work really, obviously, made us get our money's worth this week.
Look, I'll admit, even on the game preview, I said this talking about how the Eagles would win the game. It felt more likely they would assert their dominance and get the ground game going. Except hindsight being 2020, I should have known we were in store for a Hurts masterclass seeing all the critics this past week. I mean, the dude went 5 for 5 for 215 yards on throws of 20-plus air yards against a Brian Flores defense. You know, the same one that was entering Week 6 having only allowed 1 touchdown of 10-plus yards. That is until Jalen Hurts did it 3 times on Sunday. Yet still, somehow, there are some out there that would call it luck.
That is impressive. Good for him.
It's incredible. There's no arguing, and I'm sorry. There's none, because Jalen Hurts had his second best game in terms of his career EPA per play for throwing the football. Second best game in his career, and also the second best game for any quarterback in the last 3 years against Brian Flores, which I'm sure had Flores pretty confused since this was the same guy who used to really struggle against his blitzes. Although on Sunday, Hurts completed 11 of 14 passes when he was blitzed for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns. And honestly, for me, the most impressive play, read, anticipation, just everything was the final touchdown to AJ. I mean, look at the wide-angle still shot of the touchdown play, and then look at where AJ is at on his route when Jalen decides to throw it. Just saying, QB1 hears the noise, understands the assignment, and let the last couple losses fuel him.
It's the feeling of losing. Simple as that. I know there's a clip where, to confirm, I said that we're not losers anymore. Because that's, coming off the field, because that's all I could think about. That's all I could think about throughout these last 2 weeks. You know, having opportunities to finish the game, to finish the fourth quarter. I really think this is the first time we've finished the fourth quarter and finished in the second half. And so those things come up, and that's important in this game. And so I think definitely there was some fire there. But within that fire, you have to be the calm.
Just got the swagginess to him. When he's in control, you can see the look in his eye.
I don't want to say he's expected, but we know the work that he puts in. We know the way that he, how he comes to work, how he leads, and the type of player that he is. And he came with big for us. A perfect passing rating, like we're talking about here. It's amazing.
Wins games. I think that's the only thing that matters as a quarterback in the league. One day he can throw for 300 like he did today, and one day he can throw for 20 yards next week. So he finds ways to win games, and those type of quarterbacks that you want.
I will say major props to Zay for the shout out to Jalen, even though he had a very rough day. Now, I don't know if that's the familiarity of knowing some of Zay's weaknesses or just the fact that no one should be able to cover Smitty or AJ when this offense is firing on all cylinders. I mean, look, just a little side note here, but the Eagles are 12-0 when both wide receivers score a touchdown in the same game. And give Nick Sirianni some credit too, because Philadelphia is 9-0 against NFC North teams and 3-0 versus Minnesota, as the head coach being Nick Sirianni. I don't know exactly what that says, but hopefully the trend continues because we have 3 more NFC North teams on the schedule. Anyway, the irony of it all, like Brooks Cabina wrote, is that the Eagles thought Sunday was a major opportunity for their run game, since Patullo actually built a game plan off blocker-heavy packages for the Birds to run more under-center plays. And okay, while they did end up working, it wasn't the outcome they had in mind when KP initially put in the game plan.
So I really didn't want to say directly what we were going to do when y'all asked me earlier in the week, because I'm just not that type of competitor to put that out there. But, the thing was to come in and establish the run. That's what we wanted to come in and do, and the game just flowed the way it did. And we were able to be efficient in the past game. KP was very timely, and I think we were able to doctor up some things on the sideline and work through some things. But those guys made big-time plays. Smitty had a hell of a day. Tough. Size ain't nothing to him, the way he plays. So it's good to see. It's good to see. And, I think I said this on the field at Pam, but it ain't about, identity is important. Don't get me wrong. That is very important to have an identity and be able to establish an identity. But for a long time now, we found ways to win games. We found ways to win games in a ton of different ways. And then I think when you say we found ways to lose games, we've lost games kind of in the same way. So being critical of ourselves and knowing that the identity is important, but as this thing goes along, it's about winning.
Okay, positive side, we won, made the winning plays, but it also says a whole lot about the offensive line that you come into the game with the idea to assert your dominance, and it doesn't happen. I'll get to that in a second, but it tells you a lot there. Still, you got to give credit to Hurts for going off script on a couple really big plays to make something happen. I mean, having options is never a bad thing, especially when it comes to dinner, which is why we started using Goldbelly. Seriously, with the season in full swing and news happening at literally any second, we don't always have the time to have a home-cooked meal. However, we started trying Goldbelly, and their options are amazing. I'm telling you, Goldbelly is a site where you can get the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the U.S. And the best part is they ship it right to your door anywhere in the country, which makes it perfect for a family meal, hosting loved ones, or a great gift option with the holidays right around the corner. By the way, we went with the Lou Malnati's pizza and got the cheese and pepperoni options, where then all we had to do was unwrap, pop it in the oven, and then cut and serve. And not gonna lie, we would all give it 5 stars for the quality and the taste. Also, right now, you can get 20% off your order when you click the link in the description and use code PHILLYSPECIAL. Of course, Goldbelly has just about every option you can think of. Like, let's say you're craving barbecue, they'll ship the legendary Franklin's Barbecue straight to your door. Or try the one and only world-renowned stone crab delivered from Joe's in Miami. Just saying, whether it's a dish from that one-of-a-kind restaurant or meals from world-famous chefs, Goldbelly has it. So if you're looking for that perfect gift for everyone on your list, or looking to impress everyone with an epic meal that takes the stress out of preparing everything for family this holiday season, then use code PHILLYSPECIAL and go to goldbelly.com. Again, that's goldbelly.com using code PHILLYSPECIAL where you get 20% off your first order. Imagine having a quarterback throw for a perfect passer rating and still knowing the offense isn't even close to being fully unlocked. I mean, that's basically where the Eagles are at, even though the silver lining is that they might have found a new identity, or at least a somewhat okay new identity. Because you realize the Eagles ran more under center plays 20 against the Vikings than they had in any other game this season. And it was actually the most they'd run since Week 9 versus Jacksonville last year. Whereas comparatively, like I say, the most that they'd run in this season, the past 4 games combined, they only ran 26 under center plays. So perhaps it's wishful thinking, but maybe KP is learning after all.
Maybe he is, maybe he ain't.
You know, Brandon Lee Gowton made a good point. It's not 2024. Like, face the facts, and the Eagles can't just run at will like they used to. Which is why maybe they have a new identity and just need to lean into feeding A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith more often. Or at the very least, let them call their shots like Smitty did on Isaiah Rodgers. Because following a quick start to the game, the Eagles' offense faltered on 4 straight drives to end the half. Which is when Devonta Smith had enough and went to the OC for the play. Yeah, Smitty literally went so far to get the O-line on his side for offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo to call the play.
Hell yeah. He was confident. And when you see the confident look in your players' eyes or your teammates' eyes, you want to advocate for him. That's what Landon did.
Fortunately, at least to his credit, KP listened to the offense. Because after Minnesota made a field goal to cut the deficit to 5 to start the half, the offense was in serious need of a spark to regain momentum, leading to Patullo dialing up that 1 + 6 = 7 connection for the longest touchdown play of Smitty's career.
He was chirping about it and it ended up getting called. I'd say a great field by him, great execution from the guys up front, and then great call by KP to get to it.
You can tell, like, when he really sees it and he gets this look that, you know, he sees and he's like, oh yeah, this the one right here.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind that was the turning point in the game. Especially since it later led to A.J. Brown and others having input on how the offense could beat some of the Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores' looks. Of course, at the same time, sure, I don't know exactly what that says about your offensive coordinator situation in Philly, but what happened in Minnesota was at least a little bit of a step in the right direction for the offense.
We're all on the same page, you know, the sky's the limit. We just have to continue to do that.
Beauty of this game. They could do whatever they want, but we should always have answers. I think that's a mentality we got to continue to get back to.
Let me ask you, serious question. Has your confidence in KP increased, even if it's just a little bit? Has it increased? I mean, I realize several of the plays on Sunday were thanks to the pass game improvising, yet you also can't deny seeing Smitty's route tree against the Vikings was a night and day difference from anything we've seen this season. On the flip side, I also totally understand if you're not falling for anything, you're like, yeah, Josh, hold up, you know, we've seen a little bit of fool's gold before, I'm not going to buy it, that's fine. Although I would say the O-line might be the biggest concern at this point. Heck, the Birds admitted it, they came in with the game plan to run the ball and dominate. Yet the running game was only able to get Barkley 45 yards on 18 carries versus a pretty bad run defense in Minnesota. And the ridiculous part that really doesn't even make sense is Saquon started out with 25 yards on 5 carries, but then finished with 19 yards on the final 13 carries. Which is why I'm sorry to say this, but we have to come to terms with the fact that this is a below-average offensive line. Now yes, clearly Cam Jurgens being able to stay in would have helped, since those metrics I just mentioned came once Brett Toth replaced Jurgens. And to his credit, Toth took a lot of the blame for hurting the rushing attack on missed blocks, but either way, Philly's got to find some answers because Beef Jerky could be out for a little bit, as reports are that Jurgens is going to have an MRI on his knee for the injury he suffered on the first play of the game on Sunday. I mean, prayers for that, hopefully it's nothing major. Jergy did come in there and play for a couple more drives before going out, but then the pain was too excruciating. We all know about Cam Jurgens playing through the back injury in the NFC Championship game, so I'm hopeful it doesn't tell us anything, but I mean, Cam is one of the biggest warriors on this team. Hopefully it's nothing, or at least, you know, be able to get him back. At the same time, though, do you want to rush him back? And we saw that from Landon Dickerson, or would you just say, you know what, bye week is super close, don't play against the Giants, get your rest there, get the rest of the bye week, come back healthier versus Green Bay? I'm curious to know your thoughts, so let me know in the comments, but I'll keep you up to date once we hear anything about Jergy. Now look, as poor as that part of the offense was, you got to give some credit to the red zone defense. Like, come on, Minnesota had 6 trips inside the red zone, but 5 of those 6 resulted in field goals. Meaning, doing the math here, that's 20 points that ended up being kept off the board.
This play by Cooper DeJean is an amazing play as Justin Jefferson goes up to try to make this score 14-10. He gets both hands on the ball, but Cooper DeJean's not done yet. He's got his left arm inside the arms of Justin Jefferson, and he pokes the ball loose right here. And the greatest receiver in football, or one of them, can't maintain possession. They got to settle for a field goal. This was just a great individual play. Let's watch the biggest play of the game here. It's a 7-3 game. It's 3rd and 5. All right, here comes Jordan Addison in motion, and Cooper DeJean is in man coverage on him. Inside is Justin Jefferson. All right, they're going to blitz Zach Bond on the play and drop Jalyx Hunt into a robber position right here in the middle of the field. Carson never sees him. He's going to his favorite target, Justin Jefferson, right here. And Jalyx Hunt jumps right in the middle of it, picks it off for his first interception, his first touchdown, and the game ball. And rightfully so. And on the play, Jalen Carter makes the biggest play he's made all season. He's on Blake Brandel, the new center for the Vikings, and he beats him clean with a swim, and he comes right at Carson. And maybe that hit on Carson, right to the solar plexus, maybe that's what allowed him not to see Jalyx Hunt sitting right there. And as he puts the ball in his left arm and he gets to the sideline, he gets a good block from Josh Uche to finish the play in the paint.
I saw the ball, so I caught it. That's pretty much it. I dropped one last week. I didn't see the ball, so I told everybody that I didn't see the ball. And this week, I saw the ball, caught it. So now I got a little stain in the game. We love Nakobe, but just like what he said, he brings swag. And when you got swag exuding like he does, and then you got us, everybody just feeds off of it. So you get our swagger back. 2 losses, if you listen to the outside noise, you would have thought we was 0-18. We couldn't win. We just had to get back to what we do. We got to train how we train, and then we're going to approach next week the same way we approached this week. More detail, more focus, and everything. So I'm excited.
How big was it and how good was it to see Nakobe Dean back on the field? Look, I know it wasn't perfect. Carson Wentz bailed out the birds with some terrible throws and some awful decision-making at times. However, I also wouldn't call it a random coincidence that the first game Nakobe makes it back into the lineup is the first time this year that the Eagles held a team under 100 rushing yards, which is especially important with the Giants on deck and considering that the Vikings came out really wanting to establish the run with Jordan Mason. For the record, yes, I understand timing and playing from behind adds some context, but even just the yards per carry allowed was down significantly to just 3.9 versus Minnesota. Just saying, you could feel the difference with Nakobe on the field. It'll be interesting to see how Fangio plays that. Does he continue to try to use Jihaad on the edge? There's some differences. There was rust. It took a little bit for Nakobe to get going. But when Fangio talked about playing his best 11 guys, Nakobe is without question one of those 11. Again, was it a perfect defense? No. Like, they still allowed 387 yards, gave up 313 passing yards to Wentz, allowed 21 first downs, and a 47% conversion rate on 3rd down. Yet say what we will, in the biggest moments and situationally, they balled out. Plus, my gosh, they even got multiple sacks in a game. Granted, I'm also with you that mobile quarterbacks have really seemed to give the defense problems and almost the Achilles heel that it is something they have to get figured out. Although here's the thing, the silver lining was seeing Jalen Carter get back to that game wrecker ability we've seen from him in the past. I know he didn't get a sack, but he had 6 pressures in the game along with 3 tackles, 2 quarterback hits. Get you all kind of fired up with the turnover. Just like Jalyx Hunt's stat line of 5 total pressures, 3 quarterback hits, 2 hurries, and yes, the pick 6. Like, it's incredible, and here I am just another week saying basically the same thing. They're almost there. They're getting the pressures. They're almost there with the sacks. We got 2. It still needs to be better, but shout out to Anthony DeBona for this. There's 37 players in the NFL with 21 pressures or more, right? So follow me here. 37 players, 21 pressures or more. Only 2 of those with the 21 pressures or more have 0 sacks. Guess which team they play for? Yep. It's Jalyx Hunt and Jalen Carter. So look, what I'm trying to say is the breakout game should be coming soon for Philadelphia's pass rush, or at least for those 2. The question is, do you think Brandon Graham helps in that area, or even just for the run defense? Whether you're in favor of it or not, BG is officially coming back, saying he never really wanted to retire in the first place. And he's also been getting in workouts consistently since the season even started, with a plan to return against the Packers after the bye week. Although Fangio did reveal that Azeez Ojulari is unlikely to play against the Giants after suffering the hamstring injury last week, so maybe we see BG sooner than we initially thought. By the way, you'll notice from Nolan Smith's Instagram as well that he posted, and it's looking good for him to return against Green Bay. Anyway, it'd be nice to get both edges back, but if nothing else, getting BG in this locker room is a pretty big positive boost to the morale.
No matter if he come back in any capacity, if he play every snap or no snap or two, it don't matter. The energy that BG brings is unparalleled. So that just to have a guy in the locker room like that, it'll be great. And he still can ball.
Oh yeah, and I feel good. Honestly, I felt great even coming out of that game before I found out I tore my tricep again. And now my tricep feel good, fully healed, got everything checked. And man, it's more like just feeling like you can still add value and help the team in any way. And they know what they're getting with me 100% of the time. I'm all in. And yeah, I'm like, while I can do it still and while the calls are still coming, I'm like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Because don't nobody really pay attention to the details of, oh man, Tom Brady, all they know is Tom Brady won seven Super Bowls. And they don't say like, oh, he came back for one more time too. So I figured I'd go ahead, come on back one more time if the opportunity come itself, because it's still going to be the legacy of me winning 2 Super Bowls and all that stuff. So going out on top was cool, but of course I still felt like I still had stuff in the tank to go do it, go make another run.
Has this been an ongoing conversation with him? Have you been in communication with him throughout the course of the season, or?
Well, I haven't, all the way from the start, I was teasing him not to retire all the way back to last February and March. So, yeah, I've run into him. We've talked when he's come by. I always tease him about it. Try to light the fire.
With the retention part, your experience with him last year, does that give you confidence that it's going to be pretty good? Or is it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Personally, I kind of felt like BG should have just rode off into the sunset and be done with it. But at the same time, too, hearing the clip from Nakobe Dean and from others talking about the boost of energy, the morale there, even if he doesn't play, if it helps add to the morale of the locker room, then I'm all for it. Plus, I think it goes overlooked a little bit, yet the biggest area 55 can improve this defense is how well he sets the edge in the run game. As Devin Jackson pointed out, 12 of BG's 17 stops last season were on rundowns when he beat blocks to drop runners for a loss or a very short gain. Now, don't worry, though, for those of you asking if that means Howie won't be making a move for another edge, I highly doubt this changes anything. Remember, he was already making calls about potential edge trades before Zadarius Smith retired. So if anything, BG replaces Zadarius, but Philly's gonna need more help. And while it's easy to see tweets from guys like Jermaine Johnson of the Jets and wonder if something's going on, the best bet continues to be Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips in Miami, especially after the Dolphins got cooked by the Browns 31-6 on Sunday. With Jordan Schultz reporting that many members around the league expect those players and others to become available very soon. And yeah, if nothing else, judging by the vibes afterward, I'd say they're about ready to blow that thing up.
There's a lot of guys that will have an important work week because we're not, if you are negatively affecting the football team routinely, I don't have a choice but to, assess a different player and I have to coach a lot better as well. So we're going to find out who and what we're made of.
That screams total dysfunction. Again, we haven't heard anything yet, but I will keep you posted as soon as there's any moves. It could be well before the trade deadline and we're creeping up on it, but it could be in the next few days. We'll keep you posted. Now, the other area to consider, and totally get it, continues to be CB2. And honestly, only a more heightened awareness after Adoree Jackson suffered an injury in the Vikings game. Because although Kelee Ringo chopped his locks, it didn't exactly change too much on the field.
He's the same.
Look, at least he didn't get shredded like Isaiah Rodgers did against Smitty and AJ, because Zay gave up 5 receptions for 151 yards on 7 targets, good for 30.2 yards per catch, 3 first downs allowed, and 1 touchdown. Which is crazy work when you think about it, because Zay came into the game allowing less than 100 total yards for the entire season, and he just more than got that doubled in 1 game. Still, though, I would 100% take Rodgers back in a heartbeat over Ringo. Anyway, while we're talking about corners, we got to give a shout out to Quinyon Mitchell. Not only did this dude rush back from a hamstring injury a week and a half ago, but Q held one of the best wide receivers in Justin Jefferson to 1 catch allowed on 3 targets for 10 yards and good for a 43.7 passer rating. And honestly, as a whole, Fangio's unit did a phenomenal job on JJ with the exception of Andrew Makuba's missed tackle. The misleading part, though, is not necessarily believing everything you read or taking in some context, because there's tweets out there saying Makuba's 2.8 passer rating and coverage was the best as the primary graded defender and all that other stuff. but watching the game, you saw the mistakes that he had. At the same time, he's had his moments. He's a rookie. There's other instances where it's like, hey, that's a great play, and then others where, yeah, it cost you. Personally, I'm not overly worried yet because I think as time goes on, slowly but surely, Nakobe's going to be okay. He's made some good plays and timely plays, like I said. There's others where it's infuriating. He's a rookie. It kind of comes with the territory. Fangio's talked about it in the past, so I'm not overly concerned at this point. What I will say, the bigger change that isn't exactly getting talked about is the special teams issues. Like, it's unreal at this point. Now, by the way, Xavier Gibson getting a move to the returner was 100% the right call, and you can see the potential he brings. The issue, though, is that almost every positive return, there's a penalty, and then when it comes to kick coverage, Philly gives up a big return or doesn't even get it inside the 20 to spot the opposing team at the 40-yard line. Thus, part of the reason the Birds ended with 8 penalties for 64 yards compared to the Vikings, who only committed 3 penalties for 30 yards. But go figure, after a play where TJ Hawkinson was eventually ruled to have dropped a touchdown pass late in the game, he was complaining about the overturned call.
There's nothing to overturn it. I was out there. I felt it. Hands under the ball, snag it, and I don't understand. I don't obviously understand the catch rule at this point. Jihaad had one like the exact same thing last year in the corner of the end zone. So they got to figure it out. It's New York can't call in and say that it's not a catch when every other ref out there says it is. That's all it is to it. That's all there is to it. We're giving us an op at the end, but it's just crazy. It's this whole thing. You can't have somebody call in that's not at the game, and with apparently a different view than everybody else has here. It is what it is.
I'll be honest, in an attempt to try to be as unbiased as I can, had that been Dallas Goedert trying to make the catch and that happened, I would have been upset. For an overturned call there, yes, I would have been upset. Now, if you go look at it super slow-mo, the ball is moving, there's a little bit of uncontrolled possession, but had it been called on the field, yes, I 100% would have been like, you got to be kidding me. And I get it, though, regardless, because the week prior, we had this Kelsey situation ruled a catch. The bigger problem is the NFL has no consistency, and I think we all realize that. Anyway, it was interesting to see the Vikings' odd strategy to try and stop the tush push, and we'll see if other teams try to use it going forward, albeit Philly still converted against Minnesota's unusual formation. Of course, with the injury to Cam Jurgens, the question becomes, whether or not they can run the shove with the normal guys this week. Either way, even if they can't, I'm still confident in the Birds to exact some revenge on the Giants this week, probably mostly because we're going to be wearing the Kelee greens. And let's not forget, the guys have never lost a game since unveiling the new Kelee greens a couple years ago. Speaking of losing and transitioning there, New York also just suffered what was quite possibly the most humiliating defeat I've ever seen, allowing the Broncos to score an amazing 33 points in the fourth quarter to walk it off. Plus, add insult to injury, and the Giants lost several defensive starters during the game. So yeah, just saying, the injury reports for both teams will certainly be worth watching ahead of Sunday's game. Again, make sure to subscribe, turn the notifications on, because I'll keep you up to date as soon as we have any info on who's good to go. Here's the good news to wrap up. The Eagles are in first place of the division, and after the Cowboys beat the Commanders, Philly actually has a pretty commanding lead at the top. Long way to go, obviously. Still long season, but let me know how you're feeling. After the dub, how much more confidence? I mentioned a KP in general, but just how much confidence in general? Let me know everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'll catch you in the next one. This has been the Philly Special.
Like I should feel like